Hey everybody, Tony Krizek here, the host of Tony's Spot on Fishing. Today we're in beautiful downtown Chicago, Illinois on Chicago's lakefront of Lake Michigan to commit regicide. That's right, folks, regicide, which is of course the death of a king, which is what we're here to do. The King Salmon Run is well underway here in Chicago. It started about a week or two ago up north in Racine and Kenosha harbors, but now we're starting to get fish here in the city. The techniques and things we're going to show you will work great anywhere along Chicago's lakefront. Right now we're fishing mainly lakeside. They're not in the harbors yet, but if you're fishing Belmont, Diversey, Burnham, Montrose, Jackson, any of those harbors, even down in 95th Street, Calumet Park. These tips and tricks we're going to show you are going to help you catch more kings this year on Chicago's lakefront. We're going to show you all the equipment you need, the baits, and how we do these fish. That's all this week on Spot on Fishing. All right, guys and girls, let's show you some of the tackle we use down here to battle these kings. If you're going to do it the right way, it's a pretty specific rods and reel setups that we're using. Now, if you guys are just first trying it for the first time, want to see if this is something you want to continue to pursue, if you have a long flipping stick, something like a 7.6, 7.10 flipping stick that you normally use for bass fishing, you can come down here and try it just to get your feet wet, so to speak, on these kings. But if this is something you really want to get into, this is the tackle you really need to go into. Now, this right here, this is our Browning. It's a Browning 6 River salmon rod. Now, it's specifically a salmon rod, and as you can see, we have a real soft taper to that tip. So that backbone is going to kick in about the 4th guide there. Now, why we need that little bit of a soft tip, aside from helping throw some of these baits, that's also going to help us keep these fish hooked. Because these fish, their mouth structure, it's a lot of bone, a lot of cartilage, just a little bit of flesh in there. So having a little bit of give is actually going to help us to keep these fish buttoned up. Now, it's 8'6" in length, and as you can see, it's got a very, very, very big backbone to it. So once that tip section loads up, when we need to really turn a fish, turn its head, we'll be able to do that, and we can lead that fish where we need them to. So this long rod's not only aids in casting, but also helps in fighting these fish and getting leverage. Now, we'd like to run monofilament. I do myself. You can run braid. My thought process, though, behind the monofilament on the line choice, it has a little bit of stretch. And again, for those same reasons, because of that mouth structure, kind of gives us a little forgiveness so we won't rip the hooks out. Now, this is an 8'6" spinning setup. So especially if you guys are fishing at night, it's not a bad idea to run spinning. This way you don't have to worry about bait casters and backlashes at night. We are out here during the day. We did stick one little king already so far this afternoon, but we just kind of want to give you an idea of the tackle first before we really get into fishing for these guys. But a lot of times the most activity will occur once the sun goes down. So that monofilament, it's going to give us a little bit of stretch to it. The spinning reels are a lot easier for dealing with these fish at night. Don't have to worry about backlashes with bait casters. Now, there's 2 types of baits that we like to run, spoons and crankbaits. And let's talk about the spoons first. And this is a kale wobbler. It's a 3/4 ounce bait. We definitely run a heavier bait when we're fishing spoons, 3/4 of an ounce. Now, you can use kale wobblers, you can use little Cleos, moonshine as well. During the daylight hours, we'll like to run this blue and chrome type pattern. Gold and orange works well. Green and silver as well is another good color. Once we get into sunset and we're fishing at night, that's when we'll start fishing our glow-in-the-dark type patterns. Now, here's another little trick that we like to do. Either you can run a snap swivel on these spoons, because as these spoons are fluttering and going through the water like this, they will have a tendency to roll over quite a bit. So if you have a snap swivel with a ball bearing swivel, that's going to actually help keep you from getting line twists. However, what I even like to do sometimes is just run a standard ball bearing swivel and alleviate the snap altogether, and just attach the spoon with a split ring to that ball bearing. So that's another little trick if you just want to eliminate a weak spot in your setup. Otherwise, if you just run a plain cross-lock snap swivel, that'll work just fine as well for you guys. Now, when we're throwing them spoons, I like to run a medium heavy rod, because we are, of course, throwing 3/4 of an ounce. What do you got, Mike? You want a picture? Now, when we're running a crankbait, what we like to do is run a little bit softer setup. We're still doing that 8'6" 6 Rivers rod, but we're gonna go with that medium action. So we want a much softer tip. Now, just like when we're bass fishing with crankbaits or walleye fishing with a crankbait, we like that softer tip so we don't pull treble hooks out. Same thing with the kings because of that mouth structure. So we go a little bit softer tip, we go to the medium action 8'6" 6 Rivers rod. And you guys can run a St. Croix or any other brand you want, but that 8'6" is a good size overall. Medium action, spinning or bait casting. Again, we're running monofilament here for that little bit of forgiveness with the stretch in the line. Now with a crankbait, we're not going to run that snap swivel. We're going to tie direct right to that split ring there. And basically, when we can eliminate a breaking point like a snap, we'll do it. So tie direct with your crankbaits on these. Now with crankbaits, you can run either a reef runner, shad wraps, fat-free shads, the Frenzy crankbaits. I'm a big fan from Storm, the Magwort series. What's nice about these Magworts, has a real nice rattle to it, makes a lot of vibration, creates a lot of noise, hard thump, something these fish can hone in on. Now the one thing you guys got to remember, these fish, these kings this time of year, they're not here to actually feed. They're coming in to spawn. So when they're coming up, they're not feeding out of hunger, it's out of aggression. These fish are actually trying to kill it. A lot of times you'll feel what we call headbutts, where a fish will come up, not even open its mouth, and just punch that bait. Sometimes they'll tail slap it, and then other times they will actually eat it and try to kill it that way. But they're not striking the bait to feed. So a lot of times when we're running a crankbait or a big gaudy flashy spoon, we're just doing it to aggravate them. So that's rods, reels, and crankbaits and spoons to catch more king salmon. All right, second king of the day rather. Yeah, don't horse him here. Let's see what we got. Yeah, can't tell if it's a steelhead or might be a coho or another smaller king. All right, excellent. There we go.
That's two for me. Oh my goodness.
Let's get this guy unhooked here. Whoops. Right in the corner of the mouth too. There we go. Now you see how we have this, black on the gum line here. Little rascally rabbit. This black. Now do you see here how we have this black on the gum line here? That's how you can tell when it's a king. So this is a younger king right here that was actually up here. So that's a good sign. When we're getting kings of younger year classes, this isn't the standard 4-year-olds that are coming in to spawn. It's a younger king. It's a good sign. Water temps are low. Bait fish are here. All the salmonoid families here. It's going to be a heck of a day. We're still in the afternoon. We're not even in the hot and heavy time. We already got 2 kings on the board. Now folks, when you're out here and you're shore fishing, you're going to want to make sure you have a real long net handle. And these walls are pretty high up from the surface of the water. So I actually run these real long extendable handles, any kind of net, Rangers, Beckmans, whatever you can get, with that real long handle to where you at least get, at least about 9-10 feet in length. And then also, I get a lot of weird looks because sometimes I do run this bigger hoop like this. The nice thing about that bigger hoop is it gives you just a little bit more length to get down there and get these fish out. Because basically, if you look at it, when we put this net down, and as you saw when we netted Alicia's first fish, we do have to cover a lot of water or a lot of air before we can get that net down in the water to scoop that fish. So having that extra long handle and that little bit bigger hoop to it as well will help us when we go to scoop that fish. Now, the other thing too, when you get a king on, and especially if it's a bigger one, one of the 4-year-olds, don't lift him out and then try to pick the net up just like this. You're gonna bend your handles up. So when you scoop these fish, you scoop them, get them in the bag, and then you're gonna turn it and just lift it hand over hand straight up like that. So this way you won't bend up your nets, hoops, or handles. What we got here today, we actually have quite a bit of a big spot on fishing crew out here with us on the lakefront. With me is one of my best buddies, Mike Eckerly, his wife, Alicia Eckerly, and my good buddy, Eric Wyrag. We're out here basically, everybody's throwing something a little bit different. Alicia's already gotten 2 kings to go. We're able to capture that one on camera. And basically, she's just throwing a gold and orange 3/4 ounce KO wobbler. Mike has switched over to that gold and orange. Didn't take him long to switch over. But he was throwing green and silver. Eric's throwing blue and silver. And me, I'm gonna go a little bit totally opposite all that. I'm gonna throw that crankbait, that magwort. And I like real bright, gaudy colors. Like I said, we're trying to get reaction strikes out of these fish. These fish aren't here to feed for forage purposes. I mean, they're here to come up and spawn. So it's all aggression strikes, and that's where that bright, gaudy, loud magwort comes into play. Now, with a spoon, you know, you can cast it out, and we'll show you the spoon retrieve here in a minute. But when we're throwing a crankbait, what we like to do is I myself personally like to keep them moving, especially these big, wide, wobbling baits like this. As long as they're moving, they're making noise, causing a commotion, you're continuous getting that hard vibration to it. So that really helps trigger those fish. But when you're fishing a spoon, you can do a stop and go retrieve. You can count it down to different levels. You know, count it down 10 seconds, 8 seconds, 7 seconds, straight retrieves, fast retrieve, slow retrieve. Just change it up and try and find what those fish want. Now, the 2 fish Alicia got right off the bat here, she's actually gotten them basically as soon as that spoon hits the water. She's just going ahead and engaging the reel and starting to retrieve, and actually a little bit of a quicker retrieve to it. But you'll play around and find sometimes they want it slow, sometimes they want it deep. You just got to see where those fish are at in the water column and where we can get those fish to react on a bait. So much like any other species, versatility, trial and error, and just try and figure out what these fish want. But if you come down with a big group like this, get a group of your buddies all together and come down to the lakefront, definitely change it up, see what you're going to get those fish moving on, and then everybody can kind of hone in on that one specific bait. Now, another thing too, if you go online, you can find some hydrographical maps of Lake Michigan, and also there's a couple map books out there that you can purchase that will have some of the depths and structural elements that are here on the south end of the lake in the city. And this time of year, when we're real early in the run, we're out here in the first part of September. The full moon was last night. And that full moon, once the water temps drop, really start to bring these fish in. Brings them up shallow. They realize they got to come in and spawn. They're 4 years old, so they're coming in, they'll spawn, and once they drop their eggs, they die. It's the end of the salmon's life cycle. Now, what's really nice is we had quite a few days of west winds. And what the west winds do is they actually push that warm water out of the city. So the warm water goes out, and the cold water will actually come up underneath, so it recirculates it, bringing that cool water up. Water temps right now are actually in the low 60s. And what's cool, no pun intended, is we actually have, there must be some alewives or another forage base around, because right now we're seeing a mix of, we've seen a few cohos swimming by. We've already caught some of the younger kings, the 3-year-olds. So when you have younger than the 4-year-olds coming in and you're seeing some cohos, that usually means that there's definitely some alewives around, and you can really have a fun time out here. But basically, getting back to that map situation, what you want to do early on in the run like this, because they're not going to run straight into the harbors. They're still going to be milling around lakeside. And what you want to do is find areas where you can position yourself, especially if you're from shore, to cast into some of these deeper holes. Right now where we're at, we actually have a nice deep hole. It'll taper down to about 22 feet of water or so. And it's kind of a staging area. It's a very big, deep hole, and these fish can stage in it before they go into the harbor. So do a little research, do a little homework, and find some of these areas like this. And you'll be very successful in early season run kings. Time of year, you'll see obviously your king salmon. Thankfully, the water temperatures are cooperating. We do have those cohos up here right now. The cohos are coming with them. Some of the younger kings, the 3-year-olds, are showing up. The browns, years ago, browns used to migrate back out to deep water, and there still are some that do. But the browns are actually feeding on the gobies that are in here. And it's not uncommon to catch browns shallow all summer long now. They're one of the species that really has picked up on eating those gobies. So anywhere you got rocks or things like that, at the base of any of these seawalls, there's always these big boulders helping hold the wall in place. That's where you're going to find a lot of these browns. And they're pretty much there all year round. I mean, if you want to take a spoon and come out in the summer and run it along the edge of those rocks, you can pick up browns that way. So the browns are usually almost always here now. But we do have some cohos running around. We haven't seen any steelhead yet today. I think the water's still a hair warm for steelies. Definitely we get into around Thanksgiving time, we see a lot more steelhead coming into the city. But yeah, kings, cohos, browns. Unfortunately, we don't really get lakers up too shallow. Once in a blue moon, if there's actually I've caught one from shore in January. We had it where there was no ice in the harbor. That was over at Burnham, and there was a laker near what they call the pipe at Burnham Harbor. But lakers we don't usually get too many cracks at from shore. But pretty much all the other members of the salmon and trout family, you can catch them. Getting into that low light period, sun setting, and this is when things really tend to heat up, especially for the kings. We were able to bring you those couple fish earlier in the afternoon, but night is when things truly do get magical. One of the reasons that afternoon pattern picked up was the moon phase. Checking the moon charts, the peak periods were between noon and 2, so that right there boosts the activity level. But right now the next window is supposed to be between about 7 and 10, which is just about what we're in. And as the darkness falls, we like to go over into these glow-in-the-dark spoons. Now you can get these in a little Cleo. This is the Kale Wobbler. Also the Moonshine work very, very well. And what you guys and girls are going to want to do is get you one of these. It's a little camera flash. And you can pick them up at various tackle shops, even little camera stores. But just these little add-on camera flashes, and they're the best way to charge your glow spoons up. Some guys will take an LED flashlight to them, but these really get them supercharged. Basically, you just hold your flash right over the spoon, just like so. Kind of avert your eyes, give it a hit. We'll let it recharge. Do one more, and I'll give it a third one just to be on the safe side. And boom, that spoon will be glowing and shining and dancing pretty out there in the dark for us. And again, we're not trying to get these fish to eat. We're just trying to get a reaction strike, get these fish to kill a bait that they see right in front of them. So definitely, darkness falls, we throw glow-in-the-dark spoons. Still don't be afraid to throw your big crankbaits either. Your reef runners, magworts, things like that. Those high vibration baits with the big rattles, they'll be able to pick up on that as well. but definitely early on in the run, I really like a glow-in-the-dark spoon. Grab that light too, Mike. Yeah. Whoop. Wait. Okay. There we go. Perfect.
Beautiful. 3-year-old, huh? Yep. That damn moonshine.
Oh, kale. All right. There we go. Oops, come here, buddy.
You got your fire?
Yeah. Boy, that was a weird one too. She just kind of sucked it in. It was not an overly aggressive strike like some of the other ones. Hang still. Hold still.
Is that blue?
Yeah, that was caught on that blue glow pattern of the kale wobbler. That's
Damn, that's in there good.
yeah. That's coho.
You lucky man. That's a nice coho.
Yeah.
That is a very nice coho. That almost rivals mine.
Yeah, that'll fillet up nice. Whoops.
Especially now. That's a very nice. That's a coho. It's a coho.
Yeah, very nice coho there. These are a real good eating size too. To me, I think of all the salmonoid families, I think cohos are one of the most tasty ones. But we're gonna go ahead and keep him. But it's a good sign. We're getting some fish going right here at sunset. Glow-in-the-dark kale wobblers. You never know what you're gonna get mixed in with these kings. Cohos, browns, they're all up here. That's spot on fishing right there.
Tony Spot On Fishing just came back from our first trip out for the fall salmon run, and now we've got the most important part to do with our salmon, cleaning them. And the most important part to start with is having a good sharp knife. Without that, there's no point. On my stone, I've got an old stone here that actually my dad gave me. Just a bit of oil, and you're going to go ahead and sharpen the knife on a bit of an angle and apply a little bit of pressure at the tip to get the tip sharpened. I've done most of the sharpening already, but I just thought I should probably show you guys this. I'm a woman. I like a little cleanliness in my kitchen, so the gutting happens in my sink. Awesome superness. First, I just like to give it a little rinse just to get some of the slime coat off that's been produced while it's been resting in the casket. And also, if there's any debris and stuff on there from when it was caught. Stuff like that. Since I'm in the house and on top of it, you make a big mess with all this. What I do first is take my sharp knife and put it on the belly of the fish. There's a hard bone underneath the underside of the fish. Basically, you want to find the end of that bone and then do a small puncture in. Not too deep, otherwise you start cutting into organs and things that you don't want to do. And then I'll slit up a bit into that bone so that I can reach my hand in later. And again, just with the edge of the knife, you don't want to go too deep because you don't want to be cutting into things that you are going to spoil the fish. And it looks like we've got a female.
God. That's surprising.
ready to spawn. So I slit all the way down to the chute. Now, since we've got a female, let's go ahead and grab a Ziploc bag. We'll save that for Tony. The spawn is good for later on in the season after the actual run happens. It's excellent bait, so we're gonna save that, wrap it up, freeze it for now, and use it later on. So the egg sac attaches right below here. I'm probably gonna have to grab a knife. Yeah. Because I'm going to try and keep it together. You don't want it to break up too much because you want to be able to cut it into pieces to use for your bait. So there's one. So the next part is removing the actual guts and innards so that when you take the fish over to fillet it, again, you're making sure you're not spoiling the meat, and it just makes it a little easier because then you don't have to worry about cutting into anything. So first thing I'm going to do is get a good grip. Actually, there's the fish's heart right there. You kind of got to reach under. It's pretty gross. I doubt many women want to go ahead and stick their hand inside of a fish's gullet. But you grab the gizzard, and now I've got kind of it cleared away a bit, so I can grab my knife and give it a bit of a cut so that I can yank it out the rest of the way. And then you're also peeling back. I don't know all the terms for any of it, honestly. But you're peeling this all back. I guess you'd call it a skin of sorts. And get rid of that. And into the bag and away. And next, we get the water going. I like to get the cavity again cleaned out. And then there's one other area of the fish that we got to get cleaned out, and that's the bloodline down the back. Now, if you were outside, it'd be pretty simple. You just grab something kind of sharp and run it along the bloodline and then scrape it out and leave it wherever. So I'm just gonna slit with the knife and just start rinsing that out. Again, it keeps me from getting a little too much mess going on when I'm filleting, so I can see what I'm doing. And I just rinse it all the way out. I like to use the glove for larger fish just to help me grip them, especially with the slime coat and scales and whatnot. It just helps me hold on to the fish when I'm doing the filleting, gives me a little traction. So I only use it on one hand. The other one I need nice and open so that I can actually do the work. So when I'm filleting a fish, again, good sharp knife, ready to go. I like to go ahead and start as close as I can because we don't want to waste any of this fish that gave its life for us, how we can enjoy it. So I come down on an angle right by the gill plate and do a nice clean cut right in all the way down so that I've got a starting point. And I'm right-handed, so that's the direction I like to tread. And then next, we're gonna go down the back. Let's see, yeah. And I'm gonna go just above the dorsal area if I can manage it. Get a little sawing motion going on to break through the skin. Don't go again too deep. We're just doing a beginning slit so that we can get inside and feel where the bones are and whatnot, and again, save as much of the fish as possible. And another nice thing about the gloves is it protects this hand, which the knife is at times heading towards. Next, I'm just going down the back. You'll kind of feel when you're doing it, the knife kind of clicking along on the bones. And just take your time, let the knife do the work. It's nice and sharp, it'll handle it. And if you cut above a bone, which I'm pretty sure I did right there, I can feel it, we'll clean it up later after we get the fillet off. But in the meantime, just try and continue to evenly, yeah, here's another bone I got. Go down the back of the fish. And we'll get as much of this fillet out as we can. So we're getting close to some of the bones, so it gets a little harder. All right, now we've broken through and we've gotten past these bones right here. So now I'm at the point where I don't really need this glove anymore because I want to be able to feel what I'm doing. And again, you're just letting the knife do the work. Come along the backbone. There we go. And so I'm going to hold it down like this and apply pressure with my pointer finger to kind of give the knife a little bit of a warp as I head down. And at this point, again, you're letting the knife do the work and just cut to the tail. And there we have a fillet. And I'll do a little cleanup after, but first I want to get my other fillet off the fish. But see that on the back side here, I ran right along the spine of the fish and got as much meat as I could off of it. So now I've got my two fillets. So I've got a little bit of the belly membrane, or I don't know if it's the belly membrane, but the fat still left on. So I want to clean that off. But I want to, again, not waste the fish because this is a nice thick fillet here. So I'm just trimming that back and off. So, get rid of all that. Now we have our fillet. Now with salmon, you can always cook it with the skin on, but we're going to refrigerate or freeze this to use at a later time. So I'm going to go ahead and take the skin off so that we can package it. So again, I've got a little fatty section on the back of the tail, so I'm going to cut in just ahead of that so I have a piece of the tail to hold myself. I'll go in with the knife. This is kind of the real working part of the knife, the most delicate part. Good for skinning fish, obviously. So cut in until you get to the skin, and then turn the knife and apply pressure so that it warps just a little bit, and then get your fingers held down here so that you're holding onto the skin so that you can pull it away from the fish. And then I get my thumb involved a little bit and then just head down your whole fillet. Gonna have to get myself a bigger cutting board. There we go. Let's see how I did. Not too terribly. Maybe got a little deep on the skin, but that won't really bother it too much.
Well, hey everybody, that's about all the time we have for this week. We hope we shed some light on how to attack these kings down here and how you can have some fun. And like we said throughout the show today, you can find these fish in any of the harbors: Montrose, Belmont, Diversey, Burnham, Jackson Park, 95th Street, Calumet Park. Any of these harbors along Chicago's lakefront, these kings are coming in. It's only going to get better and better. This is the first part of September, and it's just going to continue. We're going to get more fish, bigger fish coming in. We were able to see a few fish rolling, some of the bigger females. We saw one further down get caught. We ended up getting 2 younger kings, probably a 2- and 3-year-old, and then also that coho we landed as well. So be out here. There's no such thing as a bad time. You can catch them during the day. You can get them going at night. Just remember, bring your spoons. Have a good selection of spoons from Kale Wobblers, Little Cleos, moonshines as well. Glow in the darks after night, blue and silver, green and silver, gold and orange during the day. And of course, all your crankbaits: reef runners, shad wraps, fat-free shads, storm magworts, wiggleworts, all that stuff. Rattle traps, the Bill Lewis rattle traps. If you can find some of the glow in the dark rattle traps, those are good baits too. Hey everybody, get on down to the city. We're going to be down here quite a bit during this whole salmon run, showing you some more tips, tricks, and techniques on how to catch these fish. So stay tuned. We hope to see you down here. This is Spot On Fishing.